If your console's in trouble, why not get a game based on the biggest name in entertainment? Epoch's Doraemon was released at the very tail end of 1985, their holiday season game. The perfect New Year's gift for any kid. Assuming those kids didn't have a Famicom and weren't playing Super Mario Bros. Obsessively. Doraemon is a cultural institution in Japan. He's a robot cat sent from the future by his owner Nobita to help him in his childhood and stop him from growing up to be such a loser. One of the things that Doraemon is known for is a wide range of absurd gadgets that inevitably get Nobita and his friends into trouble. Epoch doesn't seem to have had the Doraemon license very long, since Hudson will release their own Doraemon game on the Famicom roughly a year after this one was released. Hudson's game will sell more than 1 million copies. This one, not so much. In fact, it's a relatively rare Super Cassette Vision game, and one of the more collectible ones since everyone loves Doraemon. The plot of this game is that Nobita and Doraemon are building a time machine, but Nobita's friend Gion gets upset when they won't let him use it. So he smashes the time machine into pieces, hiding them in a rat-infested house. Doraemon, despite being a robot cat, is terrified of mice. And so on the first stage, your goal is to reassemble all the pieces of the time machine. The stage is a long, infinitely looping set of doors, and these will occasionally pop open and a character will come out. If it's Nobita or his friend Shizuka, they might be carrying a piece of the time machine. And as Doraemon, you'll have to collect it. But if it's Gion that comes out, then he'll chase down Doraemon if you're right there. And running into him causes you to lose a life. Mice are constantly spawning in, and if Doraemon touches one of those, he gets stunned for several seconds. And it's possible that the mice can just stun him over and over again. Once you've collected all of the time machine parts, everyone hops aboard for a trip, only the time machine is now overloaded, so people get scattered in prehistoric time. That's the second stage, where cavemen will pop out of the holes, dinosaurs will walk back and forth, and Doraemon has to collect Nobita and his 3 friends, and then return them to the door at the start of the stage. Once you've rescued everyone, you take off once more, and this time crash in the distant future. On this third stage, you have to rescue everyone once more, and rebuild the time machine. There are elevators here that slowly go up and down, and bumping into those from below is fatal. There's also a UFO that will track you and fire a beam, and the space units which will always go directly to Doraemon's horizontal position. That can make it very difficult to pick something up. If you manage to get all the time machine parts and rescue everyone, then it's back to the present where you do it all over again. All of the stages have a few other notable features. You can pick up Doraemon's favorite food, dorayaki, for some extra points. More importantly, while you're walking around, holes will sometimes open up, and Doremi, another robot from the future, will pop out. She's handing out various gadgets to use. And this is one of the biggest strengths in the Super Cassette Vision Doraemon game. There are a ton of gadgets that you get. Okay, they mostly come down to 2 things. Items that make you invincible, and items where you can hit the left or right button to shoot them at enemies. But by my count, there's over a dozen different things you can get. And the effects of all of them are slightly different from each other. My personal favorite is the shrink gun that you get on the second stage sometimes. It'll render any of the enemies that you're facing harmless. A couple of the unique ones include a lasso which will let you pick up a friend, and a cape that grants Doraemon super speed as he flies around. Doraemon has free movement in the stages, just press up to activate his helicopter and fly around. This sounds like it should make you effectively indestructible, but it's really hard to fly over most enemies, except for the mutants on stage 3. I've managed to successfully do it against the cavemen, but the spacing is super tight. There are 2 difficulty levels here, amateur and professional. Now, on professional level, things just seem to be a little bit faster and you have less lives. It doesn't really make a big difference in this one. There's also a bonus mode available where you play a sliding block puzzle with different Doraemon characters. It's the kind of thing that you'll look at once and then never go back to. By far the best thing in the Super Cassette Vision Doraemon game is the amount of Doraemon content. It doesn't feel like a situation where they just had a game sitting around and put Doraemon in it. Compared to some of the other Doraemon games you'll see in the 80s, this one is packed with all the gadgets and characters that kids were looking for. Unfortunately, it's just a very primitive arcade game for 1985. The big challenge to it is sometimes you'll just get trapped, and that will happen relatively often. In fact, it's such a problem on the first stage that the optimal strategy becomes sitting in one place and waiting for all the parts to come to you. The most interesting thing about this one is that it's a very early Doraemon game. Actually playing it, on the other hand, is not worthwhile.